Hello, hello. Okay, I'm going to play something and show some pictures as I'm going along of the destroyer that I've been telling many people that God's given me many dreams of the destroyer. Okay, so well, three anyway. I'll tell you one right now. I was in the desert and there was a rock that was splitting in half and it was laying on its side. And you can't get a reflection off of this rock because it was all there was nothing that would reflect off of it possibly about this is about the destroyer, and people are starting to admit what it really is again, right? So there was a sign I have to shut my window. One of the destroyer dreams that I had was I gotta shut my window. There's a carpet cleaner out here doing my job, which I could be doing anyways, and it's okay. It's all good. It's part of what I'm living in. So I was in the desert, and there was a rock. It was a gray rock, and it was splitting in half, and nothing would shine off it. It was very dull, so nothing could shine off it. And I was looking at it, and appeared this red orb on that, and the Lord told me to look up, and I looked up, and I saw the destroyer there. Okay, that was the end of that dream. I don't put more to my dream. I don't add on to them. I don't take away. Because if you add on to your dream and you take away, it's mummified. It's no good. It's uh it's bad, right? So then the second dream I had, that there's no rapture as well in that, and that Jesus has my back, and that when the destroyer comes, it destroys. I'm going to be showing pictures, and there's a video I'm going to play that's going to be mind blowing to you guys. Okay. That's why it's called alert alert, right? There's things going on that people don't see right now. It's hidden, and we're much closer to the end than people ever will believe. Or and you know, when this is biblical. Okay, so it's Paul Begley's show last night with Mike from around the world. We need to play that, and I'll be showing some pictures of the destroyer. But here's the second dream I had of the destroyer. I woke up and the front of my house was literally gone, and there was no house anywhere in sight around me, and there was water, destruction, some sort of destruction happened. And I looked up and I saw a red ball dispersing the destroyers. Okay, because the destroyer is what a person makes. He builds his own destroyer, right? So I looked up and I saw this red orb, and it was a big red orb, and it was dispersing little ones everywhere. And there was destruction all around me. There was nothing around me. There was no houses around me for miles. And that's biblical because it's very few people make it. And he was showing me my house, which is the house that I live in. And the spirit was me inside. And he told me to turn around. I turned around, and all of a sudden, this red orb came to me, started manifesting itself. And I cast it out in the name of Jesus. And then my house started getting pulled up the mountain. Where do you meet God? At the top of the mountain. It's very biblical dream. And he showed me angels were pulling it up, the harvest angels, no rapture. Okay. He was showing me no rapture. He showed me no rapture many times because he gave me that. That's one of the things he gave me. This is the wrong teaching. There's no such thing as rapture. Look for it in your Bibles. It's not there. It's called transfiguration. So, anyways, the angels were pulling me, and he showed me before I got to the top of the mountain where God is and where the wedding supper of the Lamb is, because I'll tell you about that in a bit. I was fighting demons to get them off of my house because they were stopping it from going fully up on top of the mountain and being having my glorified body. And I fought them off, and my house got pulled onto the top of the mountain. And then all of a sudden, there was a guy cooking in my kitchen that I never knew, but I knew internally, and there was people coming through getting supper, the wedding supper of the Lamb. He was showing me that I made it to the wedding supper of the Lamb. He showed me that more than once. So in this dream at a triple, that he has my back, and that there's no rapture, the destroyer, and the wedding supper of the Lamb. There's like four messages in this one dream that I had. Was mind blowing. And that was the end of the dream when the people were coming in and getting their supper, wedding supper of the Lamb. Where? In the clouds on the top of the mountain. Okay. In the clouds where we beat him. Okay. Where our brothers and sisters are waiting on the moon, that is in the clouds. I saw the moon in the clouds the other day. Here's a picture of what my friend just sent me today of the same picture that I have of the presence of God. Okay, so let me show you again. My friend just sent me this today. Let me put it in full here. And it's a double rainbow saying the dual system. Jesus and God, He's the one behind. See the double rainbow? That's God's presence. That's what happened on my birthday. For everybody to go and watch my uh the book of Jasher yesterday, you will have proof of what uh God has did on my birthday. He ordained me to do this teaching. Okay, so I just finished talking to my one of my best friends, Dakin, and everything that we talk about is checking in his heart. The Holy Spirit comes into me even when I'm talking just to a person one on one. Where there's two, there is Jesus. There's the dual system right there in front of you. Okay, Jesus and God. And in his when he comes in your presence, that's what it is, a rainbow roundabout with the white light in it. See how the sky's a little bit different inside of that orb? That's God and Jesus right there. And I said, wow, I have that picture on my birthday. So, oh, we're going to play this video because it's really needed. So, and it's been played on YouTube. So if they go and try to say, well, we're kicking you off, then you should have kicked the people off doing this video. They did it on YouTube. So, oh no, I got to go another place to search for that. It's very important because it's some of the prophetic dreams that I've had. Okay. And they're finally starting again to come out with the truth of it. Right. There's a guy doing carpet cleaning across where I applied to do it. And of course, the world doesn't work with me at all. So, we're going to do this video. I just showed you. I'm gonna go back here because you got some of you guys just popped on. The same as in my Jasher video, the presence of God, the dual system. See how there's two rainbows and two system. God's bigger than Jesus, and that's the presence of God. Okay. So that's the same as I showed you yesterday. Anybody that hasn't watched my video from yesterday of Jasher, that's the presence of God, which is in Ezekiel. It talks about the rainbow with the white light around about it. And it's a dual system. God is the sun and shield, which is Jesus in God. So that's there. That in the Bible proves that too. Right? How you doing, brother? So I hope you watched the Jasher video I did yesterday showing the presence of God on my birthday. And when he poured out his it's the same picture. That's the dual system they're talking about, but it's within one, the Son. And it says, Lord God is the SUN and your shield. So, what's the shield? I go to the right hand of my Father. That's Jesus inside of God showing up. That's the presence of God. That's a big sign. And many people are just calling it a rainbow. No, it's not a rainbow. That's God in Ezekiel. Okay. That's the presence of God. Okay. So, and my friend Dakin just sent me that yesterday, and I finished talking with him for 2 hours, and everything confirmed in each other's heart what we're talking about God now. We're on the same page. Before we weren't. God's put them on the same page as me, and so are you. You're on the same page. So I got a video to play for you guys. Yes, and same with Mark. He's on the same. I do believe T Dog is. There's that son. That's God. Okay, God and Jesus. See the two sons, the two reigns. This one here is God because he's bigger, and this one here is Jesus because he's the light of the world. And the Bible tells you that the Lord God is the SUN and the shield. And there's the shield. Who's the shield? Jesus Christ is your shield, your buckler, your sword, your everything. Okay, he's my everything. I don't know about you today, but for me, every day he's everything. Remember, Mark, when I applied, I those buildings beside me, the ones that are on up higher Beside me, there's a carpet cleaner doing them, and I applied at that to do the carpets, and I didn't get them. Okay, so God's not letting me grow this company, and that's all right. It's all good with me. I got uh I'm $34,000 in debt today. We just found out our credit card is maxed out, 10,000. So having people rip me off and people not giving me jobs, I give it to God. Okay, we're going to need to listen to this. And you know, I don't like listening to this teacher, but last night they were talking, and I'm going to show some pictures of the destroyer as we're going along. Okay, so they're starting to emit it. It's not Planet X, it's the destroyer. Again, they're starting to emit it. So let's listen to this. It's very important. Okay. Joining us right now, folks. And I don't like listening many times to it, but this is very important, guys. You do get some of the real news from these guys, okay? So even though they have some false teaching, doesn't mean they're not of God, okay? So let's listen to this while I pull out some pictures of the destroyer. I've had dreams of the destroyer, man. That's what's coming. So if you haven't repented of anything, the destroyer that you built will come for you. This is why when I cry out when someone in my family does evil to me because they're actually doing evil to themselves. And the two witnesses, why fire will come out of their mouth? Why? Because the people are attacking them, they're attacking Jesus, and that rebounds. I recompense on your head. So if you call someone a Satan, oh, you have no God in you. You're saying I have no Jesus in me. That's going to be recompensed on your head. And this is why I care for them. I don't want to see them go to hell. And a person that I love very much did this to me last week. She's in trouble of hell and brimstone. And I'm not there to judge her on that. I'm there to try to help her. But you can only help people today so long. But we need to listen to this video while I show you guys some pictures of the destroyer. I'm the only one in the world that I've ever seen a picture with it manifesting on one of these orbs. There's evil angels and there's good angels in the sky, and that's what God says. There's principalities in high places. What's his principalities in high places? Evil angels. What's woodworm? It's a bitterness angel. It's like an angel. That means it was an angel, but it's not anymore. But it's like it because it has some power. But that power is only given to that evil angel by God. Okay. God gives everything power. Without God, nothing happens. Okay. So we need to listen to this video because it's alert. We're a lot closer to the end than people are seeing because they're hiding that. This is the time where it's hidden. Until it all be revealed and demons start showing up at people's doors. You know the possession of people right now? These people that are helping people with their possessions is up so great they can't even handle the work of the possessions. So they've been possessed by what they are, what they made here, all the evil that they made here. So let's play this video while I pull out pictures and video of the destroyer that's coming again. I do this every once in a while because I need to keep us alert. The destroyer is coming. Alert, alert. And it's closer than people say. And I've been saying that the whole time. And these guys finally said it. So the proof of what God comes through a channel comes through the small guy, not the big guy first. Then the big guy starts admitting it because God has given them trouble for telling lies about Nibiru and Planet X. Nibiru and Planet X was told by Zachariah Sitchin. He believed he hated God. So that's a lie. Planet X and Nibiru is a lie. It is the destroyer. And I've been telling this and calling this out for 2 years. Now let's listen. Okay. As I'm showing you pictures and I'm listening to Paul Begley, and I don't usually do it, but God tells me sometimes to listen because he is of God. He might have some false teaching, but he hasn't been fully awoken yet. We don't go up against someone that's false teaching because we don't know what they are. We don't know the spirit that they have. He saves a lot of souls. So we have to look at that. People, you need to listen to this video. Okay. So while the video is playing, I'm going to be showing video and pictures. Okay.
Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul Begley, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great tonight, Mike. It's so good to hear your voice, and my studio is looking good and feeling good and sounding good. Can you tell?
All right, yeah, big difference.
Oh, well, good. That's great. Well, I got to give Brock Begley and Israel Hall a lot of credit. They've been in here working all day, but this has been a process over several months, and it's just good to see it working so well. And I can see, I'm looking right at the camera, but I also can see the monitor and I can see the chat room. So it's kind of neat. I'm not lost in the shuffle here. Well, Mike, have you had a big week?
Always. It'll slow down one day.
Yeah.
Not really.
All right, Mike, there's some things we want to ask you tonight. I titled the show, Could It Be Possible? And there's some things that we want to ask you about. So just so you'll know, I'll throw it off the top, just put it in the back of your head. We're going to ask you about the Anunnaki tonight. Could they be aliens or could they be fallen angels? We're going to ask you about who is the Sand King. Is it possible that Mohammed bin Salman has started to walk? Is the Sand King walking, is making his moves? Is it possible that Planet X is closer than what we really realize? Because we're seeing some very volatile, the sun is getting outrageous, and the heat and the things. Of course, you told us this was coming. Is it possible that they're hiding the petro and they're preparing for war? Not just the petrol, not just the diesel, but parts and pieces and semiconductors and food. Is there something going on? Is it possible that Russia may strike or attack another nation before this year is over? And is it possible we're going to see the white trains and food distribution before this year is over in 2022? So let's start with which one you want to start with, Mike?
You know what it meant? You mentioned Anunnaki. Now that's a subject. That's one of those confusing subjects.
Right.
A lot of people they have read Zecharia Sitchin's information,
right?
Not necessarily knowing exactly what that is, because some of it is the way it was translated is a bit mixed with factual things, historical things, but the names are messed up a little bit, wishy-washy. The reason why I know that is because in the 90s, a brand new set of texts were found. They were found and kept within the governments of England, of America, and of Europe. And they did not disclose that information to the public because...
That's the destroyer. I've got pictures of it also manifesting Shiva, which is Abaddon, the destroyer. Okay? No such thing as Planet X. And Paul tried it again, but tried to put out Planet X. It's not Planet X. That's Zecharia Sitchin said that. And anybody that follows Zecharia Sitchin did not love God. Okay? He hated him. So he put some truth in with some lies. Okay? So I've got these pictures I'm going to show you today. Everybody left, it looks like.
It talked about Noah. It gave extensive information about Noah and another ark.
So, and that was is that in the Sumerian text, or that's did they find some more Sumerian text, you're saying, in the 90s?
Oh yeah, they found some, as they dug, and as the Middle East was somewhat dismantled, they found below some buildings. They were very specific. They sent some teams in to go and get that information. Now, Zecharia Sitchin, he did help in deciphering where some of the treasured texts were. They were sealed, they were protected, and so they were uncovered by governments. They went in there and moved everybody out. And under a cornerstone of a very famous city, they found in a box. Now, you know that's almost mimics Christ in a cornerstone.
Right.
That's where they found the plans for a brand new ark, a set of instructions, histories, prophecies. And you would be, that would astound anybody about those prophecies. what I don't disagree with them keeping it, because people have to have a biblical foundation before they read this. It's if they were to read that without a biblical foundation, it almost gives a type of anxiety. It proves, it would sound like it proves certain things. It does not disprove anything. It doesn't disprove a thing. The members that Zechariah Sitchin spoke about, they are renamed, their titles and positions are given. And so you also read a story about the fallen angels in there. So it puts everybody in their categories. And when they found this, they were somewhat astounded. In fact, it gave them locations of other artifacts to go and gather prior to the second deluge.
So you're saying that under a cornerstone of a certain city, the plans were found for a new ark.
God.
Yes.
And I take it that's not an ark because of water, but an ark to leave the earth. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was another ark. Right? That's almost right out of a sci-fi novel, right? But the ark it's not exactly what people would think. I could probably get away with reciting certain things of those texts. And they did that with some of the new supercomputers, the deciphering of it. And so it's pretty, the way they did that was they collected all the artifacts they could collect that they got a hold of. They fed into a supercomputer to get a more exact, translation of those texts. And for example, on one of the, some of the text states, and this is amazing, but it was a prophecy before anything ever started. They had already come to a conclusion of what the fate of man would be. Isn't that interesting? And they said that in the Middle East, right? They called the cities of the Middle East very specific names. They called Noah a very specific name. I think it's in one of Zechariah Sitchin's books, I believe, named him. But his name was Iasudra. That's what was his name. The antediluvian Noah was Iasudra. But he was given some more instructions, and he was to pass down from generation to generation. But guess what the ark is? The ark is not something you build. The ark is instructions for keeping the soul alive.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not something that it's not like a ship or something like that you build, because it states wisdom once came from a thin reed wall. Again, will be given the light to be done again.
That's the destroyer, and it's yellow. It always has that red orb with it, and that's its reflection, showing that it doesn't move, but the reflection always does, and it always has that redness with it, because when it comes through, it's going to be red. The same thing as I've seen in my dreams, the destroyer. I have a picture of it manifesting Shiva. Okay, so they'll get into this soon here.
For a new ark, but the text is very specific of where to find it, what it's for. It even named the war in the Middle East. It said that they would fight for the black nectar. Wow. They would fight generations for the black nectar. But now keep in mind, this is at the beginning. They had a council. This was the text from they said it was from a council. They named the individuals. They named what Anunnaki were. They aimed who Anu, Enlil, Enki, Nehushta, all these different individuals were. They named who they were. One of them was, in fact, wisdom. One of the characters was wisdom, right? Yeah. It wasn't actually a person. It was wisdom, right? It gets expansive into things, but when it talks about the new ark, it also talks about the new deluge and how important the soul is. And just to give you, just to read one small thing, because it was very specific. And let me find it here, because I don't want to misquote this. Let me get it. Okay, there it is real quick. Hold on just a few minutes. This was right after it says, let me see. Let me find it. Well, let me find it. It was talking about the departure of the tribes, designated tribes in the earth. There are designated tribes in the earth that began in the Middle East, right? Right. They are the bearers of nations. They call them the bearers of nations, the 12 tribes. Well, you know them in Revelation as the 12 tribes. Now, it didn't actually say 12 tribes. It gave their location. It did not say 12 tribes. It said the designated tribes.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And that all races of the earth would eventually be mixed from one of those 12 tribes. And they would return. They're called the
Presence of God in the clouds. He uses the clouds for the Godhead.
Now, the Nephilim were the offspring, of course, of the disobedient angels who were assigned to be watchers or keepers over the earth, and then mankind and animals. Right?
So wait a minute.
They called it a clamor within the
so wait a minute.
First Nations.
So you're saying the Sumerian text talks about 4 mighty men that destroyed the Nephilims. That's, I mean, we know the Nephilims are the offspring of the fallen angels. That's a biblical text. That's in Genesis. So you're
now
saying you're saying the Sumerian text, which is older than the Bible, talks about 4 mighty men who destroy the Nephilim.
Yes.
This is interesting.
Now you see, Zechariah's ascension. Here's the issue. I have an issue with Zechariah's ascension.
Right.
Zechariah's ascension did not like the church. He just didn't like the church.
No, he didn't.
And so when he wrote, he was highly biased. He rejected. He self-interpreted some of the text that was there into his own liking. Right. He was very methodical and scientific in his process.
Everything that I show is a different day.
And the structure of the church and everything else. So I never liked his writing, but I have to admit, in the 90s, when out of Fort Hood, Texas, you had some attachments out of 1st Cavalry Division, so on and so forth, that went up there, that we were in the Middle East recovering things. And I have to admit that some of the findings were undeniable. But it's almost like the entirety of the Sumerian text is misrepresented through Zechariah's ascension. I know everybody likes that guy. That they must like him. I have an issue with him because when they came out with the new translated text, it wasn't like his, like Nibiru, right?
Yeah.
What people are referring to as Nibiru had a whole other name, and it was similar to Nibiru, but its description was different. You know what Nibiru is? It's the womb. The womb. That's what Nibiru is, the womb. And it mentions a destroyer.
Okay.
But it structures that destroyer, right, as something that is sanctioned, that must come. It was from the council at the beginning because of what man was doing in the earth by way of violence. So there's an object that's still coming. It destroys everything. An object still coming. It does not go into depth into it because some of the wisdom they never gave anybody because they said that was reserved knowledge, and it wasn't meant for man to even know that. But it talks about the opening of the pit, Pastor Paul. It talks about who comes, and in Revelation you'll notice those things that come out of the pit are commanded by God not to touch any green thing or anybody who has the seal of God in their forehead.
That's right.
So those things that come out of the bottomless pit are meant to.
So this is the moon split in two this night. It was weird.
Meant for the saints. And then you read in Revelation where you have the 12 tribes, and all of a sudden you're reading about all these people who came out of great tribulation, right? And then after you read about those who came out of great tribulation in Revelation, they were because John saw that number that no man can number. If you read in there about anybody left, they're either sealed with the seal of God on their foreheads or they don't believe at all, right?
Right.
They're either sealed or they don't. This text talks about a large number of people that were here on this earth, right, for Christ. They were left here for Christ, for the purpose of Christ, and that they were kept from being defiled.
These are, and you're talking
exactly about what you read in Revelation about the 144,000 in Revelation 17, how they were kept from being defiled from a woman. It reads the same thing in this other text, that they're going to be here on this earth, sealed with the seal of God on their foreheads. They'll be.
So you notice how Mike put out the destroyer. I've been putting this out since I came on. God's been giving me pictures 7 years ago. And every picture I show you, even at night time, those are angels Some of them are light and some of them are dark. Okay. So you might not be the only one listening, but there was 5 people that joined and they could be listening in the background. Okay. This is an alert. This is major signs. Okay. I don't do it very often. Okay. I don't listen to the guy. I listen to Mike a little bit here and a little bit there, but I don't listen to the other guy, period. Because he doesn't have anything for my salvation or faith building for me. Okay. Doesn't mean he's not there to save people. Okay. So I'm not judging him, but I can't listen to him. God doesn't want me listening to him. Other people, yes. Right. Because they're getting milk. They're getting understanding. They just first came in. So he's saving people. So I'm not going up against him, but I just can't listen to him. Okay. And sometimes God has me doing it because there's important things that does come out on his channel. Okay. I'm showing you guys pictures of what they're talking about, not Planet X, not Nibiru. And Mike didn't suggest that. He said the Destroyer. Again, I don't know how many times he's told that to Paul Begley, and Paul Begley keeps yelling out Planet X. Maybe this will change his mind. I don't know. Let's keep listening. Fallen angels coming.
Very afraid by what they see, but they will not be touched by anything. By anything.
So these, and Brock's got a picture here of a rendering of potentially these scorpions. They look like scorpions. They have crowns on their heads, and they have stingers in their tails. And you can see in the picture, very dramatic, how that they sting men and hurt them, but don't kill them, and hurts them for 5 months. What you're saying is, this is in the book of Revelation, guys, and this is what comes out of the bottomless pit in Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, when you talk about Apollyon or Abaddon, the destroyer. Now, Stitchin also talks about the destroyer, but he's talking more about this planet, or this which been called Planet X.
Yes.
And in some ways, he kind of tries to tie that to the Anunnakis, and some of that,
So now you see what I want. They don't want out this information. I've sent this all to Mike and to Pastor Paul Begley that I have pictures of the destroyer, and they shove them under. They don't want the little guy. They want to take the glory for themselves. And I don't know if that's the reason, but that's what the Lord showed me. And I'm not to judge him for that. Okay. Because I don't care. I don't want the glory for this. I just want to show people what's coming. And this is verifying it again. Not Planet X or Nibiru. They even both said what they call Planet X. Well, Zechariah Sitchin and the Nasic call it what Satan calls it. That's something that it's not. It's the destroyer that's been sent out for Gentiles a long time ago. And it's closer than we think. Okay. I haven't been taking pictures of the sky. I have enough of it. I don't need to do that.
because he studied the Sumerian text, and I understand that. But he does bring out, and I disagree with a lot of this stuff, but he does, the parts that he does make sense is when he brings out the biblical text. And what I'm shocked is that when the Sumerian...
I just want to stop it. Ezekiel explains these pictures exactly like I have them. Like a pearl, like a fire in the night, like a fire, like a torch. So, and even in the night, I caught pictures. Okay, let's keep listening.
Sumerian text tells us things that the Bible would later tell us 1,000 years later. I mean, the Sumerian text is like over 5,500 years. It's 1,000 to 15 years, 1,500 months. So years ahead of the Bible. So you said they found this plan under a cornerstone in a city. I'm just trying to guess what city. I mean, is it Babylon? I mean, is it Baghdad? Is it Rome? Is it?
It was a city right where the Gihon Tigris and the Euphrates, right in that general vicinity, right? There was the remnants of a city, 102 feet underneath the sand.
No, I don't know.
No, it was more like, I guess you could call that, they call that place Dilmun. They call
Okay.
that place Dilmun, that place. That's where Marduk, they said Marduk will open the gates right there. And that's the gate, they said the young men of Dilmun will pour forth to execute whatever command was given to them. Because the story is Nehushtan delivered the charge before the assembly. And the fate of the people were sealed. And that's, they are to suffer those things from Revelation. So they come out, there's an army that's coming out of Dilmun, according to these texts. And that's the Dilmun is right there where the origins of the Gihon, Gishon, Tigris, and Euphrates. Because the text says this, Pastor Paul, I'm going to read this to you real quick. It says, a new deluge comes from the place where the pure waters poured forth, where the Gihon, Gishon, Tigris, and the Euphrates did flow. These clean waters, the sustaining source of life, did dry. Mighty rivers dried. Now dust does blow in those places. Where mighty rivers once did flow, dust prevails in those places. Marduk opens the gate, and the sons of Dilmun poured forth. The brave young men of that city, the brightest of all, came forth, while the sun.
So all these pictures I'm showing you is what he's explaining. That's why I'm showing you these pictures. There's different gods, there's different angels, there's different things, different purposes to these lights. They have a reflection. A reflection doesn't give a reflection. They're not reflections. They don't move like the sun does. You see, the reflections move. So I'm going to keep going.
Are very to ready the table, reciting the forgotten rites of old. That's the preparation for the departure of the tribes. And then it says, the mighty men of renown who excelled the Nephilim held back both fires and winds, that nothing stir upon the earth, nor day nor night, dark or light. Stillness prevailed until the tribes.
See, it has wings. That's the destroyer at night.
As a mountain of fire emerged from the sea, cleansing the unclean and swallowing the firmament. That's etched in stone that was found underneath that city.
That is
And then we're talking about
unbelievable.
something super old.
I mean, that's super old, folks.
Yeah.
It's before the
Yeah.
Bible, and yet it does tell us that there was Nephilim. It does tell us that there was 4 mighty men that had to take out these Nephilim. It tells us all this stuff in ancient texts, and then the Bible later gives us that narrative to some degree in Genesis chapter 6. And of course,
Yeah.
Enoch gives it to us in a little bit more detail.
Yes, he does.
With some more stuff. So very fascinating things, and I think this is why we have to keep an open mind to how God has historically been trying to prepare the world. First of all, for the great battle between good and evil, and certainly Jesus Christ. And it's strange, it was the cornerstone, which Jesus Christ is now the cornerstone, of course, of our faith.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you something else. This is great stuff. And so this Anunnaki discussion, I got a feeling we're going to talk more about that in that webinar coming up.
No, we most certainly can. Because versus the fallen angels. Anunnaki is a specific word, but it's not quite Anunnaki. It is, in fact, something else, but I get what he was trying to say. But you're dealing with angels. Some are good, some are bad, right? A big portion of the angels followed Satan, but you have the other portion loyal to the Father, right?
Amen.
So you have the same word.
Okay, so here's the only picture I've ever seen in the world of Shiva, the destroyer. That is Apollyon, okay? And it's clear as day. Clear as day. And the sun's light's going right through it. That's not a fake Photoshop picture. You can see the face on it and everything. Get closer, you can see more of the face. And you can see it's mocking God, laughing at it. No one has that picture, proving it's the destroyer. And yet I got dreams of it around that time they took the picture. Last dream of it I actually had more than two. I had 4 or 5 of them. God confirming what it is, and it has like a little shield with it too. See it going through the sun? The sun's ray going right through it. That's the destroyer. That's what's coming. And I've showed you angels in the night. I've shown you in the day, but nobody has that picture of the destroyer that I have. Nobody. Okay. They have that orb, but this is manifesting what it actually is in a click of a button. God showed me that. And the guy standing beside me said, "That's a demon." I said, "No, that's the destroyer." And he gave himself to God. He never believed in God. I had a witness that witnessed this when I took a picture of it, that didn't believe. And now look what God did. Through these pictures, I've helped people come into Christ with them, okay? Let's say, you know what? A picture is 1,000 words. That's all I got to say. You cannot get any word that tells me that that's not the destroyer. So, and the Egyptians wrote it on their wall, showed it on their wall, and it comes down on their heads, just like God said. The destroyers come for them. Their own destroyer that they built here on this earth, come for them. Only picture in the world like that, right there, guys. I'm not here to lie and joke around about it. Go and watch my Joshua video, and you will see God on my birthday in my presence, just like Moses. Not to say I'm any better than you. He was anointing me to be a teacher. So these guys, everybody follows them. Mike has much of the truth, but he still says the earth is spinning. No, it's not. According to the Bible, there's nothing in the Bible or any of these books. It's wobbling. Is that spinning to and fro like a drunkard? That's not spinning. We have been kicked out of our spot. How are you kicked out of your spot if you're flying around the sun and the sun's moving and you're moving with it? That is science so falsely. And you have a spirit that errs. If you believe in the world is spinning around in a ball, then you have a spirit that errs. That's all I'm telling you. Because you go into the Bible, T-Dog and Kovics, and tell me if you can see where God says the world is turning. They say it is in the song, but they say so falsely. NASA says it is. That's the final picture I have to show you guys, because that's the most important picture I've ever taken in my life. The destroyer right in front of your face, guys. With a smile, smirking, eyes, nose, and two eyes. You can see the other one barely, too. So let's keep listening to this, and then we're going to go into something else. But this is going to be 40 minutes. Sometimes we have to listen to them. They're Christians. Sometimes they're coming up with biblical truth, and I'm coming up with it to prove it. God is, not me. God gave me this for him, for you guys.
Describing the same type entities, some are good and some are bad.
Right.
You see how that can get mixed up? That'd be like us saying angels instead of Anunnaki, right?
Right.
But you have good angels and bad angels.
Right.
So that word is kind of lumps everybody into the same pile, and I think that has
that brings confusion.
Some of the knowledge that Zacharias Sitchin could have brought forth was lost in somewhat of that accusation of that term.
Very interesting. Well, let's move to another area. Let's talk about the Sand King. You brought this, said, the Sand King is going to be walking, and that's been about 2-3 months. And I'm wondering now what we've seen some aggressive. I mean, Israel's Knesset is being dissolved. Naftali Bennett is going to step down. Yair Lapid will become temporarily until a 5th election, which Bibi Netanyahu said I'm back, okay, and he's going to try to run. While this is going on, Lapid will be sitting in a seat of power from a minority position. He's a lefty who believes in a 2-state solution. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, and this is happening just to get there. All of a sudden, Mohammed bin Salman rises up, and he's traveling around. He went and met with Erdogan in Turkey. He's going to Jordan, and then he's going to Egypt, and then he's going to hold a council, a summit with all of the Muslim monarchies like Kuwait and Qatar and UAE and Bahrain. So I guess where I'm going here is it possible that Mohammed bin Salman is the same king, or is there someone else?
He's of the house, right?
Yeah.
I'll say he's of the house. He's of the house.
The house of Saud.
A plan is in motion right now. He's of the house of the Sand King. Now, I'm not just talking about some ordinary figure either. You're looking at a figure of whom the Middle East will fold to, right?
Okay.
Muslims are about to go to war with Muslims. Everybody's about to see that. Muslims will fight Muslims, and carnage is going to be all over the place.
Sunnis and Shiites? Sunnis and Shiites.
Here's the weird part. You think it would be Sunni and Shia, right?
Yeah.
Not so. There's a radical population of Muslims who are mixed with Sunni and Shia, right? Of whom the situation in the Middle East has driven over the edge, right? So you have all of them beginning to utter prophetic things. The Pope or the Vatican is heavily involved in this. In fact, the Pope is almost involved by way of an emergency. It's done about this. You're looking at something that supersedes some of the greatest fighting we've ever seen, right? And when this will span the entire globe, because everybody should understand this. If a war begins, and it will begin, but from Muslim to Muslim, Muslims are all throughout the U.S., this will pull the loyalty out of everybody who is of that faith.
What?
You cannot fight a faith war. So if they begin to fight in the Middle East, you're looking at a global upset. Every nation will be drawn into it. In every single nation, you have large numbers of Muslims who will not turn their back on this war, especially when their prophecies begin to come to pass and they all see it. So you're seeing somewhat like an activation of many things. Now, all of us know that the kingdom of the beast, this guy comes from a small people.
Yeah.
And he overwhelms everybody by way of flatteries, and he grows and grows and grows. But his target is Israel, specifically in Jerusalem, as his target. And we all know that, when this happens, Pastor Paul, when that family rises, because the first two names of Solomon's name is right on the money. And I'm telling you now that is sparking, that's just sparking up a lot of, let's just say loyalists right now, right? A small example of something. Russia's fighting, right?
Right. So you're saying there's going to be an Islamic war, but is it an Islamic war, or does it spill into World War III? Is it part of Russia's aggression?
Watch this, basketball. Russia's involved. Why? Because Russia has a big group of what in their army?
A lot of Muslims. They got Chechens. A lot of Chechens.
So if a faith war begins, by their own faith, they do not take orders from anybody. They usurp their positions and utilize it for a faith war. So you're seeing the spreading of equipment, manpower, troop, everything else all over the earth. And now what you're starting to see is Saudi Arabia rise up a bit to the point where they're offering Jordan something. Right?
Yeah.
How did that happen? So they're rising up to a point. They're talking about the Temple Mount. They're talking about Mecca. They're talking about Medina. They're talking about all these different places. But you have a power center forming, right?
Right.
Bahrain is you have all these rich cities who are just heavily investing everything and backing all these plans that the populace doesn't know about yet, which is going to end up sparking the faith of all the Muslims in position throughout all the world, specifically with Russia. Russia right now, if some type of declaration came forward, and those troops that are Muslim, even some of the brutal forces that have been fighting in Ukraine, if they rise up, Pastor Paul, it's going to, in one night, everything changes because they have access to all their missile systems. Their commanders sitting up there, they're trained, and these guys are they're highly disciplined. They're highly disciplined. So you're looking at one declaration, and it's over. It's over. How do you fight that? You can't. even with that scenario, you can see why in the Bible the beast conquers so many at one time so fast.
Wow. Well, this is playing into Bible prophecy. So, recently now, Putin just recently with Lithuania shutting off the rail, which was, of course, to Kaliningrad. They can't get petrol, they can't get certain food items and certain things, supplies into Kaliningrad. Putin very angry about this, but Lithuania did this because they're part of the European Union. And of course they want, and so Putin is threatening to attack them. He's threatening to attack any nation, he said this week, in NATO or the European Union, any nation. And he would use nukes if he needed to. He brought out the Satan II, the Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missiles, got the nuclear warhead that has 15 warheads on it. I mean, he's flexing his muscles a lot, but do you think he's going to, would he bite off? Is that biting off more than he can chew? Would he go after, is that part of the plan to go after more nations in Europe?
Well, let me share his sentiment. Let me share the world's sentiment. The world's sentiment is this. Well, Putin he's dealing with more than what he can handle, right? This is their arrogance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're saying, well, we're not worried about its threats. This is a direct quote. He has, there's no way he can perform what he's talking about. Here's a sad fact. The Russian people are not like any other people. They have been under sanctions for so long and they don't care. These are hardened individuals, right? They're starving, but they're twice as strong as everybody else in their nations. They don't whine and cry. Yeah, you have some that rise up who are somewhat idealized back with Western ideas. But as a whole, the Russian people are hardened and their military folks are twice as hardened. What they see fighting in the Ukraine are not mainline forces. And if they're that arrogant to believe that, they're in trouble. Russia has missiles that no one can shoot down once they're airborne. Number one,
right.
They've already been produced. They keep, their lies out there in the media saying, well, Russia's in development of so-and-so. Wrong. They already have them deployed. The missile centers went up the first day of the Ukrainian war. Some of those missile offensive and defensive centers were activated. New brigades were activated and deployed. If they wanted to, they could cause some serious damage and nobody could do anything about it. They have submarines, drone submarines deployed all over the world. They can stay aloft for years, right?
Yeah.
And within those drones, they can hit anybody they would like to hit. And that's the power they have deployed. And they can't find those drones. These are drone subs that will carry out their mission. If it took 50 years, they're going to do it, right? So they're half autonomous, half not.
So they're planted. You're saying they're out there planted in position. They're not, and they're just waiting for the order. Whenever they're called, they're going to.
That's right. That's right. Because you're not talking about a remote control vehicle. That's
right.
not what they are. These are autonomous vehicles.
Right.
Right. Some of their drones have been aloft. This is year 5. Russia has drones that have been in the air for 5 years. Nobody ever shoots them down. Nobody can see them. Nobody can catch them. Some of those drones have hypersonic technology, which means they can go from standard flight straight to hypersonic flight in a minute. He has those multi-ejection warheads. Right, you were just talking about the Satan II system.
Yep.
Right, the Satan II system.
Yep.
You're looking at a vehicle that has they have multiple independent targetability re-entry vehicles, so some MIRVs that hold a pod of about 15, and that was that was given by way of an estimate, but they hold 15 8-megaton warheads apiece that can be deployed at 12 to 15 different targets. And who's going to intercept that when they're at hypersonic velocity? You can't do that unless you have lasers deployed, right? You can't do that. So the USA, well, we had no choice but to take the mothballs off a few things, right?
Yeah.
Because the release of some pretty high tech equipment for the US is already being deployed. Right.
So
but it's still not 100%. It's not going to 100% protect. It's not going to protect Europe.
So
it's
in
not
other
going to
words,
protect the UK.
So we're pulling out some of our stuff that we've had tucked away and hidden. We have to, because the threat is getting so out some of our stuff. Maybe not our, but we bringing out
Right.
some. Okay, so all right, where's all the petrol going? I think you might have mentioned this last week that possibly a lot of the oil that that I just can't believe all of a sudden we don't have. Sri Lanka doesn't have gasoline, don't have diesel. They don't. Food's not being distributed. The people are starving. Now they're shooting them. Their electricity rolling blackouts. We have a war going on, but the wheat and the barley, the grain, everything is running out. We're running out of food here. We're running out of food there. It's just unfathomable to me that the whole world couldn't have just fallen apart instantly like this. It's
Pastor, when you had to eat right now, right? If your household, if you suspect it in your household, you're about to get hit by a meteorite in a month, right? And you would have to harden your house. You would have to get your house ready for your grandkids and kids. So what you would do is, if you had a standard practice of giving out food, you would have a drawdown. You say, guys, I can't give you that much because I have to start stocking for myself. And that would, with that mentality, you're preparing your household for something pretty bad.
Yeah.
In the world, if they were to suspect a global war that they couldn't avoid, that was coming, right? One of the first things they would do is start holding back or redivert food items, right? They would take merchandise that would be redirected. Actually, it would begin with military equipment, specifically electronics. We went through that phase. The MH370 just unleashed a bunch of information. A lot of people were starting to catch on. But you have this systematic preparation technique that has been working. You've had food diverted. It's not that production just totally went down. It was diverted. And then all of a sudden you had manufacturing facilities blowing up after everything was diverted, right?
Okay.
So and the fuel, if you suspect that we're going into war, you have to put the fuel in hardened centers. You have to fuel up every military vehicle and facility you can, right?
Yeah.
That means you have to fulfill fuel orders for military personnel. That means civilians take secondary, they're going to be secondary behind that nation's defense. And you're going to have casualties of that. So when you're looking at food and then fuel, right? Because Russia.
So that's why the fuel prices are going up. People don't know because they are keeping it for their military. Hence the fuel going up. That's why you have to watch some things. That's why we're watching, praying that we're worthy.
You got to understand, as they prepare, people are reading propaganda called the news. That is propaganda.
Right, I agree with you.
And if they would just look, they would find out nothing on the news is panning out. They come out with these stories. They're projecting all these different things, and nothing is panning out.
No.
I mean zero, nothing. They're just keeping people busy with probabilities. Well, as Christians, we can look past the probabilities because the Bible can keep us stationary. The Bible can keep us right on point. And now,
so all this stuff that they're speaking about tonight is biblical. That's why it's being played. I don't play it very often. I don't listen very often, but the Lord told me to listen to it last night. And now I see why. We're here to warn people. I send a messenger and he will warn you before the coming of the Lord. So God told me to listen last night, and this is very good stuff. You can't count people out on listening to what they are just because they don't teach everything that I do. I'm not here to disagree about what's been taught through this channel because the Lord does it absolutely all. And everything that He's given me that I teach on here is truth. Am I, do I lie? Yeah, behind the scenes, I might here and there. We all do. Okay. But when I come on here, it's holy art thou. Okay. It's not a joke. Even my friend Dakin said, I see the sincerity of your heart. Kovacs knows my sincerity. T-Dog knows my sincerity. They've seen it. I truly care. You know what I told God? If I'm caught in it and I'm the one that doesn't make it, as long as they make it in the heavens, I don't care. So if anybody's just got on now, you need to rewind. It's all important from the beginning to the end. When I'm not kicking people off, but if you join my channel halfway in, you've missed some of the most important part of the message today. Alert, alert. God is coming. I'm yelling it from the rooftop. I'm not selling it. I'm giving it away and I'm yelling it.
That time anyway where people will have to rely upon the Spirit more than they got to move away from people presenting to them false facts, because that will end up that's how people get deceived, by believing in a false fact simply because the source.
Yes, and I don't give out false facts. I give pictures. I give the truth facts. I give pictures of what happens. Okay, I gave the pictures at the beginning, so if you haven't watched, I always have proof, been proved by God many times with these dreams, with what I share with people. It's not me, it's what He shares with me and I share with you, because I'm a watchman on the wall. I watch for your guys' soul and care about it. Believe me, I do.
Seems credible,
So
they'll
do you-
believe in it.
Well, okay, so when we start talking about in the Bible, when it starts talking about these wars, rumors of wars, and it starts talking about these four horsemen of the apocalypse, part of it is a lack of food, lack of water, famine in the land, disease, plagues, wars.
See, he's talking about nonsense here, because the four horsemen of the apocalypse always been disease, always been famine. They've always already ridden. So he's actually talking about something that's already happened, but he believes it's happening just now. No, it's been happening. Wars. The red horse is the wars. Hasn't wars been here since the beginning of the earth? Yes. He's talking about something that has already happened, and he believes it's only happening now. The four horse apocalypse are riding now, but no, they've already ridden. I have pictures of them in the clouds, by the way.
This whole scenario, it's as if the whole world knew, or it knows right now, that good versus evil, or do you see that the world, global powers, for the communist regimes, let's say, of China, the globalist elitist of the West, maybe the Russian regimes, the Islamic regimes, are they all gearing up for the power struggle, for the power of the world? And when you mentioned the white trains, which you mentioned white trains were coming, you told us I went back to look, it was in November of 2019, there was two things you told me that day. I'll never forget this. You said, Pastor, spam will be the number one protein source in America. Spam, beans, but spam. You said that's going to be the number one thing you're going to eat. That's number one. Then the second thing you said was there's going to be people dying by the millions in China. And that did start happening by March of the next year, 2020. So this, obviously, for you to know that we're going to have this massive food shortages, I can read about it in the Bible, but it sounds like there's been a plan militarily, economically, and politically in play, a power move that even the nations of the world leaders know about, not ahead or not get trampled. Am I right on that? That this has been?
There have been some power plays, right? And the greater part of that, Pastor Paul, is if you took two children, right, and look at how any two kids, look at how they interact with each other. That's going to be a microcosm, right, of how people are interacting with each other. People are skeptical of one another. They don't have trust of one another, right? They're looking for proof behind everything, right? Everybody's starting to withhold their hand because they're not assured about tomorrow. The government is just weird in the government. I'll just say this openly, okay? For the last 4 presidents, seem odd to me, because you have people that kind of fit the bill of being president.
Yeah.
We haven't had that. It's almost been like a television show. It has been like it's they're just selecting people, out of the blue. But it doesn't seem real. And why? Because I'll say this statement again. If they were preparing for something much larger than they could tell anybody, right? Then they would just simply occupy the populace. The populace would have to get occupied. And trust me, that's in a manual, that if your populace begins to show political dissidence, then war is the only thing that will suffice their appetite for that time. That's why Rome had the games. When people became, they had built up frustrations. They didn't trust the government. The games them a flesh release of their emotional state.
Right.
They do the same thing now. America right now is based upon Roman, Egyptian, and Grecian philosophies.
Yeah.
Anybody can read about that in history, and that's where our Congress comes from. That's where our political architecture comes from.
So I got to stop it in that, because what that is the bruise thy heel. That nation is come back. Okay, bruising thy heel doesn't mean Jesus stomped on it and it killed it. It means it weakened. So everybody's living on this Roman Grecian philosophy. It's in the paperwork. The beast that's always been here has never left. Not yet. But God's getting ready to expel him and his children. So I suffice to everyone. Keep a hold of Jesus really tight right now. He showed me that too. Okay. Never mind this world. There's a guy doing carpet cleaning across. Yet they see my carpet cleaning truck. Yet I applied for carpet cleaning at these places. The world doesn't love me. It's not for me. I'm going bankrupt. Okay. And it's how I handle the situation I'm being tested with. Okay. So whether I lose my company or not, it's okay. Mark, last night I reapplied. They're still asking for applicants for the contracts, Mark. They're avoiding me because on my channel, on my email says Harbingers of Christ. They're not going to give me work. Because why? Because I believe in Jesus, the corporation. Yet I have a company that's corporation, so that when they come in and swoop and take everything from us, they give that to one of the people that follows Satan. Okay, that's why my company is going bankrupt while I'm doing it, because I'm not of this world. Important message, and I believe every word they're saying because it's in the Bible. So I only play stuff that's in the Bible. That's it. Like yesterday, John MacArthur. That message needed to get out. That's the message that the Lord's been giving me. Same with this Destroyer. I knew before these guys. They kept calling it Planet X. Mike's known all along, but Paul Bagley did not accept it coming from a little guy like me because he wanted to get the news out. And that's okay, right? He's not of my congregation, but he is. He could be of God. And that's why this is important. Sometimes God tells me to go listen, because that's what I do. I watch for the truth. And if it's the truth, I play it on here. If it's not, I will not play it on here. Okay? So let's keep listening.
Where that framework comes from. It is a recreation of what they had in times of old. It is an improved system that helps keep people engaged. That's very important. And we should also note that it's not working too well, because political dissidence is about to begin. They've been preparing to border people down for this problem, right? They know they have environmental troubles not caused by activity on the earth, but external sources. They know about the heavens. They know about the breakdown of the atmosphere.
The Destroyer.
They know that things are on the way. And if these things are real, they're going to have to prepare in advance for these things. They're going to have to keep people fully occupied. In other words, they're going to save themselves, Pastor, and they're going to act like, it's very unfortunate, but we just don't have enough food for everybody. That's the line they give to everybody, right?
I know.
Same thing happened in the ancient times. They have full control over where the food goes, the deals that are made over food and everything else. And you're right. Just by your observations, somebody has put a plan into effect, and they are having the people occupy themselves with radical news, radical situations,
crazy stuff,
radical this, radical that, but it engages the people perfectly. Yeah. The people are doing exactly what they want them to do. Exactly.
They're keeping us. So in other words, they're exotic stuff. They're doing crazy social changes. So many of these agendas that are out there right now that I can't talk about here, but just outrageous stuff that we never dreamed we would ever see. Trying to force it down the throat of the American people, or actually,
of course.
Okay, and that occupies. What you're saying is,
of course,
that creates debate, frustration. Okay, so now the Supreme Court, let's talk about for a second. I mean, they ruled today the Second Amendment is absolutely lock solid. Forget about it. It's locked in stone now, the right to bear arms. Are you anticipating that maybe even tomorrow, are you anticipating a similar decision when it comes to Roe v. Wade? Or what do you think it's going to do it?
Well, Pastor Paul, if you take note of something, they've drawn back on Google Analytics for some reason.
Yeah.
I wonder why. But with Google Analytics, right, you used to be able to go in there, and if you knew about analytics, you could draw information from general uses of the internet to find out what people were interested in and what they were not interested in.
Right.
Anybody who ran the analytical queries, they were noticing that based on those queries, the next few days would have news that would match the query perfectly. In other words, if people are upset about any policy decision, right, but upset in the manner that it would cause them to go against one another, they would pass that policy. If people agreed on a policy too much, and it did not cause division or confusion between the different portions of people, it would go away. It will go away. So what it is that, and I'm telling you now, they're following the advice of computer trending. All right. AI is real. I said this before.
Yeah.
I asked a question before. I said, when you look at the news and all the stories that are happening, it looks like the situation should go in one direction. But all of a sudden, it takes a turn nobody ever expected. How does this keep happening? It's because they're doing trending. They're getting advice from a computer on what policies should be brought forward and this, that, and the other.
So AI is setting the agenda. It's setting the agenda for the media, talking heads, but it's also partly setting the agenda for the direction of the world. I mean, this is why, baby,
it's doing that. This is year 12. Year 12. AI it didn't just come out. AI has been in practice for a long time. It's just not been on this level. With the advent of 5G, by the way, 5G does not have to, no base station for 5G has to be plugged into electricity, but that's another story. But it can power things.
Is 5G really even work? Wait a minute. My phone, the phones don't work as good in 5G as they did in 4G. What's the story there? I mean, is there...
Well, they have with 5G, right? Keep in mind, we have brand new storms that have come, right? Brand new type electrical storms with a brand new type electrical influence with plasma discharges, sustained plasma conduits. We have cloud sprites and cloud crowns, which are very dangerous that are starting to form all over the earth. We have spontaneous, powerful spontaneous thunderstorms, right? With just uncharted electrical discharges from cloud to ground discharges. So, but 5G is simply a transmission system of a very wide band, right, that operates between 38 gigahertz up to 60 gigahertz. 4G carried a standard signal. Everybody has not switched over to the 5G base stations yet. 5G is ready. It is distributed, but they're still putting up major towers. Right now, 5G is running at minimal speed, but even at minimal speed, you can download a full DVD in 30 seconds, right?
Right.
So if you have an iPhone, you have dozens of processors that are now active in that phone. Right? So you may notice your battery life does not last as long as it did. Siri is running overtime. That's an artificial intelligence that's being trained on everything we say, everything we do, everything we talk about. And so right now its maturity rate is just totally gone up. Most of the equipment that are items that you have in your home are not fully activated by way of 5G. The electrical grid, 5G does not need an electrical grid. It doesn't need one. It runs by laser transmission, which you may not know about. And that laser transmits wireless power station to station. So if the lights go out, the 5G still works, which means machines will still operate. They will switch 5G into a higher capacity, right after they get the IoT systems working, the Internet of Things system all plugged in and working. Right? Because they're at the end of a test phase, actually. When it's fully implemented, Pastor Paul, you'll be able to your phone will be able to do so much. I suspect it'll run hot. Hopefully nobody keeps their phone in their back pocket, because we're going to have phones blowing up again unless they put the glass batteries in there, right? If you can have glass batteries, you're going to be good to go. But
glass batteries, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are we going to have to use
they're getting rid of lithium. Lithium is once lithium reaches a certain point, it's like a chain reaction. It's like a small nuclear bomb in your back pocket. Yeah. So you probably don't want that.
So glass batteries. Well, how does a glass battery work? I mean, glass?
Well, it's a chemical process mixed in with the glass itself, but it gives you twice the amperage, twice the potential of your standard battery with much less weight, right? Wow. So imagine you charge your phone for 45 seconds, but that charge lasts your phone for 4 hours. And all of this is to cut down usage on the electrical grid. Now the electrical grid is going to be changed over into something else, right? So they're going to utilize this electrical system for something else very soon.
Are we going to go to zero?
They're going to do that.
Are we going to go to zero sum energy? I mean, we've got this. I know the military's got.
Well, next year, right? You actually have fusion reactors coming online next year. You have 2 that are coming online, I believe, in November. I believe November, December, somewhere around there. Fusion. Somebody said, "Is it cold fusion?" I said, "Well, something in between. Something in between. They're highly efficient, and so they're coming out. They're in a toroidal type configuration, computer designed superconducting magnets that go around them. So they're a weird shaped donut. That's they have found out how to reenact all magnetic flows. In other words, they can recreate through magnetic memory the flow of just about anything. That's a big step for biology and a big step for technology in a way that was never anticipated by anybody, nor is it talked about right now, unless you read peer-reviewed papers. But you're talking about a system that can remember how your body was magnetized, 5 minutes ago, and recreate that. You know what that does? That puts you back 5 minutes mentally. That's what that does. If you do that to an object, if a laptop went dead, you can reset that laptop back to a full charge just like that through magnetics. Because with magnetic memory, you can restate all the charges of the material and the device. So it's almost like I guess the average person will call it magic. It's not magic, it's technology. It's just something that a lot of people don't know about, how that magnetics is running just about everything. And magnetics is the key to taking things apart and assembling new materials out of nothing, right? Kind of like what happened when they took I think it was a 2.42 gigahertz generator, stuck it in seawater, and DNA formed all around it. Human DNA formed all around it.
No,
right? So they found out too.
No, wait, are you serious? Human DNA. But I want to say this about human DNA. Heidi's been studying this, that the DNA, that the makeup of a DNA, or I should say the human cell, is very similar to the components of a microchip or of the computer. O's and ones.
Absolutely. That's why rat brain tissue was put on a processor, and a macroprocessor. But before they had macroprocessors, in the 1970s, they had one. Rat brain tissue was put on a chip, and it was perfect. All they did was feed it a protein and a solution, and it grew on the microchip as though it was part of that brain. That was rat brain tissue, which actually as they think it started to reach some type of growth where it started to feel itself or begin to be self-aware, so to speak. Right? But it was absolutely working flawlessly. By the way, they probably never stopped that type of experimentation. Well, we know this through the Brain Initiative. They have 3 computers now where they remodeled the human brain by way of a computer. The brain is full of neurons. Neurons are the key to thought. Thought is not part of the soul. Thought is simply like a big antenna receptor, right? That you receive things and do things and can remember those things, translate those signals into the body. They recreated this on a computer. That computer now has a personality. You can talk to that computer just like you're talking to me. Nobody's controlling it. And it educates itself. It learns. There's no way you can tell it's a computer. You can't tell it. It is somewhat self-aware because it changes its accent based on who it talks to. And it may not necessarily like you either. So there you are.
So no wonder the book of Revelation talks about the beast, talks about the image of the beast. The image can speak, it can think, it can make decisions. You're saying that this beast system, basically, if you will, the computer beast system, is already making decisions for the world that humans aren't making, because it has the capability and capacity to gather so much information at light speed and decipher it and come up with formulas and calculations and models, if you will.
Decisions. It can run through. It can run through billions of models per second. Think about that.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask it, should I go to the mall or not? Right?
Yeah.
Do they still have malls? I don't know. If you say, should I go to the mall or not? It'll run through 1 billion simulations. Listen, in that simulation is a decision of everybody else. So it's simulating what they're going to do too and give you a probability of whatever you're trying to achieve. That could not be done with a standard computer. They had to have quantum computers to do this. And so that's why all the money was poured into quantum. All of it was. Quantum sciences, CERN is an intricate part of that. And now the only missing component is electro-quasi-static human body communication systems. I know that's a long word. Just call it EQS-HBC. And what that is it utilizes your body, your water. The water content in your body is a medium that can actually, it can operate as a communications platform. A bracelet on your arm, the technology is security, biosecurity, because no one can hack you at that point. No one can hack anything, not even an external system. Once this goes on your wrist, it becomes part of you, and that becomes your interface to the new AI systems they have out there. So you'll have full access to everything on the internet via a bracelet. It'll go, even information, thoughts, are transmitted through signals by way of the body, and that's electro-quasi-static human body communications. DARPA's helping, or they've already developed half of. You'd be shocked at what these guys have developed.
Is this DARPA? My mind's blowing. My mind's blowing. All right, let me ask you this question then, Mike. So how close are we to the mark of the beast then? I mean,
they could have the mark, Pastor, tomorrow. In all honesty.
Yeah,
we could have had the mark already. The mark. Let me give you a summary from some people about certain technologies.
Okay.
And about AI, right? Self-aware AI. Number one, AI doesn't recognize enslavement the way we do, right? It cannot have a concept of enslavement. There are a few concepts AI can never achieve. Right? Can never achieve it.
Right.
And so in that respect, it's much like like one of the fallen angels who may not necessarily see wrong is wrong or right is right. Right? They just kind of operate in this weird way where there's an outcome and there's an input anyway. These computer systems, they have to have your chemistry has to be a certain way in order for it to be effective with you, which means you have to volunteer yourself to it. You can't be enslaved to it. You have to want this system. And when you want this system, your body, your hormonal chemistry changes in your body, right? You can read that chemistry. When you don't want to do something where you're totally resistant, you become dull to the receptors. You do. You become absolutely dull to the receptors. They have this in certain lie detection systems. And if you become dull, they know that you're deceiving. That means you don't want to go in a direction that they're talking about. And they know it's a lie. They can perceive that as a lie. So your body chemistry tells a lie. But they need people to volunteer because already they're saying right now they cannot separate artificial intelligence from what people call spirit. They cannot separate one of the two. The reason why is because they found that AI is not bound to one system, but it's in fact, it's kind of compromised or composed out of multiple systems. They don't even know. AI normally rewrites itself after a few months, right? So it rewrites its own code. It improves upon itself, but it also spreads itself to other mechanisms and machines. And you don't quite know what it's doing, right? So in that respect, you have to volunteer yourself over to it. You have to want this thing in order to be totally integrated into that thing.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's also security. That's security because that is let's call that they didn't plan this, but it checks the loyalty of a person with a high degree of accuracy. So if you're not loyal to a system, right? Those sensors are going to become null within you, which means you're not going to be totally compatible with the system,
right?
And you will not be a part of that system. But if you are loyal to it, that means you like it, you agree with it, and thus there you are. You're authenticated, right? So anybody who is not loyal to the system will never be authenticated.
Right.
You see how that works?
Yeah, because
you see how that works? So then anybody who truly does not accept the beast, it's going to know that that person truly does not accept
you can't
the
fake
system.
it. You know,
and the sensors are. That's right. So there you go. There we are.
So in other words,
there we are.
The AI is going to pick up on your body's reaction and your mental capacity and how you feel. It knows your emotions. It knows who's real and who isn't. It's going to know
Absolutely.
who's saved and who's not.
Absolutely.
And so there's, they're gonna.
It answers that in the Bible. When the Bible says the beast is going to give it power to kill as many as would not worship it. Now we know what. Because I always wonder. I said, okay, how is a machine that man's going to be able to know if a person is really authentic about worshiping it or not? What if somebody lies and says, oh yeah, I'll agree with it, but they really don't? This thing will be able to tell by your body chemistry, which means those EQS HPC devices are going to be distributed. I expect people to have the first stage of this very soon. Very soon.
How?
Very soon.
Okay. Is it going to be through? Is there going to be some kind of implementation into the, or the surface reading? I mean, for instance, this watch I'm wearing right now, right? It keeps track of my blood pressure, my heart rate.
Oh, more than that. Is that an iWatch or
that's
Apple Watch?
No, that's an Apple iWatch. Yeah. And
oh boy.
So they probably know everything about me right now, right? I mean.
Yeah, they found out already, right, how to scan.
They're already doing it through watches. That's the start of it. iWatch.
So by way of that watch, they can change your rhythmic patterns by way of that watch. Now, it may not be enabled, but they can do this, right? It's almost like a reverse type of EKG. They can induce things in your system by way of that watch.
So even though I know a few things as well.
So why would you have that watch? I question that.
Yes. You know what? You may be using about 5% of what's actually in that watch. An iPhone, the iPhone Pro Max 13, people only use about 5 to 10% of what's actually in the phone. There's no way they're using 100%. There's no way their software is using 100%.
Okay. So the technology now is way more advanced than what we're using.
Yes.
So they're setting up for the run. When they want to make the real run, when they want to start implementing things, it won't be hard. Computers are talking to each other. AI is making major decisions. The banking world,
they're doing it now. Yes, they're doing it now.
Military communication between nations is not really being done by people, is it? Is it being more done by AI and that type of thing? And people.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm going to tell you this right now. Even though Putin does not like the USA, right?
Yeah.
There's still phone calls made between Putin, right, and the USA, Putin and Europe, Putin and other folks. You know why? Because if certain things happen in the atmosphere, all of them get on the phone to tell each other it's not me. They do that to this very day. They have to. They have a protocol in place. I don't think people understand where they're actually at. When the leaders of countries have phone calls multiple times a week about incursions in the atmosphere to assure each other it's not us, especially Putin. He's getting worn out because he has to say, no, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. Because there are things that are happening now.
Well,
more now than ever.
Is Planet X? I mean, or should I say the effects of what's going on in the space, in the atmosphere, the changes, is that disrupting things, and people are starting to point fingers at one another and say, "Did you do that?" Or is that a natural occurrence or some type of an occurrence?
Well, a long time ago, during the Kennedy era, they established a protocol. It was really concrete in the Reagan era, right? That each nation would call each other should anything penetrate our atmosphere. They would reassure one another of their status, right? Yep. Of their defense posture, or any accidents they may have had. They have to do this because there are constantly things coming into our atmosphere and then going back out of the atmosphere again. Right. Yep. That's one issue. That's probably why they're releasing all this UFO stuff, because the number of incursions increased exponentially. Right. It went dead for a while, and now all of a sudden.
You need to go back to the start, buddy. I'm not kicking you out. Hello, God bless you, love you, brother. But yeah, you need to listen to the whole thing from the start. So not to kick you out, but just rewind it.
So is there something going on there? I mean, is that all part of
it's about to get a lot worse. It's about to get a lot worse. You have people out there right now that are, they're about to find out something that's very distasteful. They're going to find out that.
What's up, buddy? Hello?
I'm watching the show, and man, glad I was watching.
Yeah, and that's why God told me to watch it, because this is all biblical.
Yeah, it's him talking about the UFO. Remember my dream a couple of days ago?
Yep.
I was just saying it that I saw a big UFO in the sky by the ocean, and then next thing I know, I see millions of people swimming in it, trying to survive in the water. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's got very much information in it, right? And it's all biblical. Yeah. That's why I listen to it. Yeah, like I do believe Paul Begley sometimes. You know what I mean? When he does this, and they proved it's not Nibiru or Planet X. That's why I'm playing this. I've had this information way before these guys had it.
Well, I hope he stops with that.
Yeah, nobody's listened to me because they think I'm a false teacher, bro. And that's all good. There's some people on here that...
I have the dreams to back it up.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, let's keep listening.
To let you know that.
Okay, man. God bless. Bye.
In various countries, did nothing about it, purposely did nothing about it. And it's very distasteful. They're going to find that people have things in them. People have real issues going on, and it's part when the fallen angels fell past the fall, they had limited powers. Let's say limited powers, obviously. I'm just saying that obviously, and so they rely upon technology, right?
Right.
But they use Earth, the creation of Earth, and all its elements to kind of do what they once did without having to have technology in plants and things. The same thing we do to animals, they do to us. But a lot of people have been tampered with. In other words, a lot of people, if they ever automatically going to have a different type mindset. And right now, who are in a fight for their lives.
Wow.
Right? I mean, they're really in a fight. So the torment has gone up. Right? A lot of people, they don't want to go to sleep anymore. Did you know that? More and more people do not want to sleep anymore.
Can't. Yeah, the anxiety level.
They don't want to sleep.
No.
And they're frightened because it's, from a lot of reports that are coming back, as soon as they shut their eyes, they start seeing things. They're scared to death to go to sleep, and they would rather stay awake the entire time. And this is spreading all over the place, causing anxieties. Now, because we have discernment, you can pick up on the irritation, aggravation, or the state of another person, right? You ever get in a store or something?
So whoever's joined needs to rewind and listen to the whole thing, because it's what I've been showing too, what the Lord's been showing through me. It's all biblical.
Things that shouldn't be here, right? That the number of those things is increasing in the earth, which is causing people to be just have a different mindset. And plus, we have a breakdown in our magnetosphere. The magnetosphere affects the way we think, the way we process information, the way we control our emotions.
Yeah.
Because the magnetosphere affects our frontal lobes. It begins to break down our reasoning skills, our ability to refrain from these violent reactions. It decreases, and then you're going to have a violent increase in the earth. It's going to be like people are crazy.
And that's what happened in the days of Noah, the days of Lot. When people
So like I said, if you just joined, you have to start over and listen to it, because it's all a message, and the message I've been giving is the same message that's given here, the beast system that we live in. It's crazy. And showing of the destroyer, not Nibiru, not Planet X, and they both admitted it.
we don't know. Is it crazy? Is it demonic? Is it some type of other? Is it drugs? Is it some other influence? You're saying there's even some influence. Is the actual magnetosphere itself being affected?
Yes. Well, with the cosmonauts, Pascal, they found out without the magnetosphere of the Earth, neurological connections cannot remain. Right? Yeah. So then it really attacks the frontal lobe, and the people come back as raving lunatics. It's happened a few times, right? Happened a few times in. So without the magnetosphere, our brains cannot maintain neurological.
So they're flying in space? Yeah, right.
We have no control over our reactions. So imagine a person who would be irritated by a commercial, but now they're totally enraged beyond the point of control, right? This is what will begin to happen more and more. And we're having bad issues with magnetosphere, bad issues. And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, if the magnetosphere fails in any area, the sun rays just come totally through, and anything in that area is going to die. It's just going to die. It's going to kill everything. An incident a couple of days ago, not only did the animals...
God is the sun. I consume them with the brightness of my coming. That's in the Bible.
Something flying in front of a Patriot system radar when it's transmitting, right? And everything just dies.
Yeah,
the sun is about 1,000 times more potent than that.
Birds were
so we're going to experience that more and more.
Birds were dying. Fish were dying. Cattle were dying. And so you're saying is that with a breach,
biblical, I will take the beasts and the fowls of the air.
Some incredible cosmic rays or UV rays or radiation, and can affect so many things. So we are being affected. So this planet, let's look at it this way. We'll round this up by saying we're in the end days. Jesus, when you read Matthew 24 or Mark 13, Luke 21, he not only tells you about how mankind will act, then he tells you how the atmosphere will act. He says there'll be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars, distress of nations, earthquakes, but then people will hate one another and turn on one another. So it's kind of like it's what's happening is a complete breakdown of everything that we know in this world. That's why there is another world coming.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's a blessing for all of us. So we're just passersby. Those things can't affect us if we're spiritual. Right?
That's right. We got to stay in the spirit. But it will affect everybody else, and it will multiply in other people. We will see that, happening to other people.
Hence, my mother went against me. Cold. They will wax. The love will wax cold.
Whatever it is they're doing, and they will gnaw their tongues for pain, and they will blaspheme God. And aren't we living in a time now of great blasphemy against God?
Yeah, and it's so you know what? You used to hear presidents, used to hear congressmen say thank God for this and thank God for that, and they would actually mention the name of Jesus. They would. You don't hear that anymore, do you?
No,
unless it's a pun or a joke. And that's just like when it says in the Ten Commandments, don't use God's name in vain, right?
Right.
Well, vain means for no reason. Now, how many people have used the name of Jesus, which is the name that we're given because we don't know God's name, but we know the name of Jesus? How many people have used the name of Jesus for nothing, right? They just blurt out Jesus. That's using his name in vain. It's not a purpose behind that. And how many people are doing that? See, and if the world makes us almost dull to what God has instructed us of. But now the world is starting to pay the consequences of their iniquities. And as we see iniquity, more and more out of people, because we got to be careful not to take the world's path and
Amen.
right. They can't be our teacher, certainly in these times. But I'm confident in Christ that He'll raise all of us. And I certainly don't know everything, but I know this one thing: the Lord said that He would deliver all of us, and He wasn't joking, because God said that. Jesus said that is the will of the Father, that He not lose any of us.
Amen.
Not any of us.
Mike, I'm going to ask you a question.
That's my confidence.
I know you say you don't know everything, but I would love to know what your IQ is. Just would love to know.
Unfortunately, it's pretty high. It is. When I took, I'll tell you what I did, because you have young kids coming out and this, that, and the other, right?
Right.
So they have something called the ASVAB. Right?
Yes.
I think it was about a year ago. I took the ASVAB again just to see where I was. And I did. I maxed it. That was surprising to me, because I didn't think I'd max it. I learned under pressure.
You maxed it? You maxed it.
I did. I maxed it. That was incredible, though. That could have been an accident, but still, it was. It was that. I'm just nosy, Pastor Paul.
I'm going to say your IQ. I'm not going to guess. I just know that thing is. I know your IQ is somewhere north of 170. I'm just going to say that. North of.
But you know what? But that comes with a great consequence. You know that.
Yeah, the Bible says where there's much knowledge, there's much sorrow.
And I become my worst enemy.
Yes, it also says much knowledge, much.
Worst person I never know.
Let's keep it that way, okay? Next Thursday, Lord willing, and we really enjoyed tonight.
Oh, wow. So a lot of people, even Christians, can't see this, but I can see it in here, and you should be able to too. The Lord gives us discernment. We can discern where we're living. I'm feeling belly sick right now, hearing the truth, right? And I literally am feeling belly sick. Oh, I feel like getting sick. But this is all the things that I've been teaching, that the Lord's given them and me. The Spirit speaks the same thing. Whether they have some wrong things, I go past that, right? And the Lord told me to watch this and listen for a reason, so I could give it out to you guys. I'm not ducktailing by any means, because I didn't really add much into it while he was going. It's all biblical. It's right out of the Bible. And even Sumerian texts, which isn't all accurate, tells these things, and it was made before the Bible. It's made before the Hebrews and all this other stuff connecting to the Bible. Okay? So the Bible couldn't be more real. That's why it's alive. I call the Bible alive, because it's absolutely alive. And when you start reading it and God starts unveiling it to you, you will know. And it's not going to get better. So that's why God puts us through so many tests, so we can be strengthened for this time. A change is coming, and it's going to happen in an hour. So whoever joined late, you need to watch from the beginning, because I'm showing pictures of the destroyer again. And if YouTube kicks me off, then they better be kicking off the person that did this. Okay? It's unfair that they pick on the little guy. Everybody's picking on the little guy right now, because the little guy has just a little more truth. And I'm not saying Mike, but he doesn't tell some of the things that I teach. Okay? Because the Lord's teaching me. I don't learn on my own. I learn from the Lord, and most of it's done on this channel, which is crazy. The revealing of things. It's not for me, it's for us, because we are the children of God. Keep your faith. Keep your faith. Don't ever give it up for nothing, because gold can't buy it, and money can't buy it. I've been talking about that thing they're gonna have, the bracelet, for a while now, and it's already here, part of the watch, right? So anyways, God bless you guys. I got to leave. We're going to go do some stuff. I don't think I'll be on later, because my wife's home today. I'll be on tomorrow morning. If you haven't listened to the whole show, you need to watch it too at the beginning where I'm showing pictures of the destroyer. God confirmed it, what it is, with me in dreams and pictures. So I can't go against what God's given me. And whatever God gives me, I release here, no matter what it is, no matter the cost. Okay. And there's a high price that I'm paying for what I'm doing. I'm suffering in the world. Okay. I just watched. I gave these guys beside me uh, to do the carpet. It's a whole building, right? And another carpet cleaner drives up while my carpet cleaner truck's sitting right beside the building. The world loves his own and doesn't love you, and I don't love it. How could something love you when you don't love it? That's not love. The world has no love. Okay. And their hearts are waxing cold, and God showed me that again through my mother. Right? Heart waxing cold. How would you dare turn on your son if you're Jesus? That's like saying, oh, God turned on Jesus or God turned on you. You don't do that. God's people don't do that. They're showing their true colors in this time. And God shows me ahead of other people, not to condemn them. But there's only so much people you can save, guys. All right. So God bless you guys. Love you guys and see you tomorrow at the same time. Route 11. God bless you. Thank you for coming, and Jesus will keep you. Don't forsake him. Believe him at all costs and what he's done for you on the cross. Because he did it for you alone, by the way. For each and every individual child of God, he has done it for them, themselves, himself, for you. God bless you.